Janice, the cause of this disease is still unknown. They don't really know a lot about what's happening with it, but what do we know about what's been spreading?
So cases have been reported since late October. We're talking about 6 weeks already, which is a bit of a concern because that's a fair time lapse in terms of actually getting diagnostics done. We know that there are flu-like symptoms, so we're thinking fever, headache, runny nose, body ache, those sort of things. Most of the cases have been amongst children younger than 5 years old, and all the severe cases are people who are malnourished. This is a very remote area, and so getting the diagnostics done in a country which is already diagnostic abilities are fairly limited is tricky. It's about 48 hours from Kwango, the province that this is happening in, to the capital, and so getting all sorts of other medical supplies is also very difficult. We do know that there are teams on the ground, so that is comforting.
But Janice, I mean, earlier this year we were talking about Mpox, and there was the concern about how it was spreading. How is this potentially different? Are there ways that potentially this can be contained and it's not as much of a concern? I wonder how you'd paint that picture.
So with Mpox, it's not airborne, and this we don't know yet if it's airborne, but it might well be because of the flu-like symptoms, which suggests that. So a non-airborne disease often spreads slower, which Mpox was or is, and this might spread more easily. However, because it's such a remote area, and there aren't a lot of thoroughfares or routes going elsewhere, that does reduce risk, and the Congo is exceptionally good at dealing with infectious diseases. They've had Ebola and all sorts of other things, so that is a mitigating factor.
Welcome everyone to the Hurting Humanity channel. Disease X may finally be here. A lot of us have been waiting for Disease X to arrive. There's been speculation as to whether or not Disease X was going to be the deliberate bird flu outbreak or some of the other outbreaks that we've seen over the last year or so. But we all knew it was coming, and of course that's because they told us it was coming, and their excuse for telling us it was coming is because, of course, they're just trying to prepare us for a scenario when there's going to be another outbreak so that they can protect us, just like they did last time, right? Just like they protected us from the flu, and of course, by protecting us from the flu, what ended up happening was a lot of people ended up, without knowing, even though they should have known better, poisoning themselves. And that's why, of course, the logo for the World Health Organization happens to be that serpent, you know, the one mentioned in Revelation chapter 12, verse 9. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. So no coincidence that that's the logo. Of course, nobody ever would ask the question of why in the world would a health organization use a snake as their logo? Because again, people don't think as far as they can spit. They think that all these things are nothing more than mere coincidences. So the mysterious illness, as you heard, in the Congo is now being dubbed Disease X, and it's killed dozens of people according to the WHO. Now, if you go back to earlier this year in January when they were meeting at the World Economic Forum, Disease X was the hot topic, and everybody was starting to talk about Disease X because some people were saying, wait a minute, why are they talking about another outbreak before it actually occurs? And light bulbs started to go off in their heads, kind of like before the last outbreak when many of us were sounding the trumpets the best that we could to tell people that it was coming because nanotechnology had to get implanted inside of your body. But nobody listened then, and then when we were all proven right, still those people that doubted us originally continued to say that we were conspiracy theorists because they refuse to actually believe in the real reality that's going on. That wicked people in high places are conspiring against the human population on Earth in every single country. So let me show you and tell you what they're saying in regards to this mysterious outbreak. A mysterious illness which the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is calling Disease X. So they're now officially calling it Disease X. Has killed at least 31 people, mostly children, in the remote Panzai region of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, according to the World Health Organization. The WHO said that 406 cases of the disease have been recorded approximately 435 miles southeast of the capital, Kinshasa. More than half of those who died were children younger than 5 years old who were severely malnourished, according to the health agency. And when you hear that about children younger than 5, it's obviously very, very heartbreaking. We are not sure if we could actually take any of the data or any of the stories for value, since it's coming from the mainstream media. But what you can take for value are words that come out of the mouths of these demons, specifically everybody's favorite demon, or I should say most loathed demon, Bill Gates, when he was talking about, well, let him tell you himself.
Is there something to worry about with medicines? That is, might some of them have side effects? Do we need safety testing? I mean, and we're taking things that are, genetically modified organisms, and we're injecting them in little kids' arms. We just shoot them right into the vein.
Yeah, so maybe we can correlate what's happening there. There is truth to all these young children dying, to something that Bill Gates admitted to doing, which you would think would immediately result in handcuffs being put on Bill Gates after saying a sentence like that, right? Don't you think that police or somebody should have showed up and arrested a man when he talks about they don't even know what they're doing? They're just sticking it right in their veins, right? Yeah, that sounds real safe. It sounds real ethical. It sounds exactly like science, I guess, from the school of Jeffrey Dahmer's scientific research. So who launches the Disease X operation? Okay, so they're down there. They're launching the operation. Don't be suspicious at all about our government with the Disease X Act of 2023 and how to get you prepared for Disease X. It's amazing that from all those years before the last outbreak, that nobody was actually worried about any kind of an outbreak. In the 90s, nobody was concerned. In the 2000s, no one was concerned. In the 2010s, no one was concerned. We just had one, yet they're telling us that another one's coming immediately, right? They're not saying, hey, there might be one in 100 years from now, right? Where they tell us about polio when they rolled Elvis out and they had to have Elvis take all these pictures of him getting shot up so they could socially engineer people back then to get the polio potion. And of course, the polio potion is when the shedding was actually seen out in the open, where people realized that everybody who had gotten it was shedding it onto other people because it was active and live. And that's exactly what happened a couple of years ago. But nobody was concerned all those years in the 80s, does anyone remember? The 90s? No, 70s. Nobody was worried about an outbreak occurring one after the other. But of course, now we're supposed to worry, with modern technology being what it is and them telling us how great tech is. We're supposed to worry just a few years later that another one's going to be here. And of course, it has nothing to do with them caring about your health. It's just about something getting put inside of your body. And this goes back to the Plandemic Treaty, which I'll cover after I show you this compilation of clips where it's almost like these people are giddy at the notion of a black swan event. They're giddy at the notion of what they're calling Plandemic 2 in some of these clips, which I'm sure you heard Bill Gates say over and over and over again. They're literally giddy over this. And of course, it's not a coincidence either that a lot of the faces of this movement of trying to get you to get something inside of your body, the people like Bill Gates and some of the other corporations, and don't forget Elon Musk was on board with it too, but of course has switched off of it for now because there's obviously a plan in place to get the Trump supporters in line because everybody's got to have it. But it's amazing how all these tech guys seem to be so concerned about the health of the world and really want to get something inside of you. And of course, they're not telling you what they're trying to get inside of you. But look how giddy all of these people are. And of course, they're so much smarter than we are. They just knew that it was coming. And of course, they know that it's coming because, well, we could just expect it. We're supposed to just expect it. We weren't supposed to expect anything in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and 2010s. It's 50 years of time. We can go back to the 60s and, we want to go back to when polio was here. But that was a long period of time. But now just a couple years later, they know that it's coming immediately, right? Yeah, it must be a huge coincidence.
So we, we'll have to prepare for the next one. That, I'd say is will get attention this time. In the next 5 to 10 years, for the next pandemic, we'll solve all those problems.
You say the next pandemic, there will be another pandemic.
Absolutely. We don't know when. The risk per year, 2%, 3%.
The next pandemic, and there will be one. There will absolutely be an outbreak of another pandemic.
We definitively will have to face other surprises, black swans, as they are called, maybe different kinds of viruses.
But also there will be a surprise outbreak.
Most of the work we're going to do to be ready for pandemic 2, I call this pandemic 1.
There will be certainly what we call the black swans, the unpleasant surprises which will come in our way.
After we started putting a placeholder, the first that came was in the disease X is COVID. So we have experience now, and we are preparing based on that experience. A lot of assessment has been done.
There is no doubt that the delays in reaching lower-income countries and communities with vaccines cost lives. We cannot allow the same thing to happen next time. And there will be a next time. History teaches us that the next pandemic is a matter of when, not if. It may be caused by an influenza virus or a new coronavirus, or it may be caused by a new pathogen we don't even know about yet, which is what we refer to as disease X. There has been a lot of attention on disease X recently, but in fact, it's not a new thing. We first used the term disease X in 2018 as a placeholder for an as yet unknown disease for which we can nonetheless prepare. COVID-19 was a disease X, a new pathogen causing a new disease. But there will be another disease X, or a disease Y, or a disease Z. And as things stand, the world remains unprepared.
So, of course, we're not prepared for it. The countries aren't prepared for it. This has a lot to do with, obviously, biometric data, biometric tracking, hacking you, and getting your digital ID in place. But they're talking about this at the same exact time that Reuters releases an article that says Tedros is confident finalizing this treaty in the year 2025, this treaty that they are so hell-bent on getting out there. And, of course, this treaty is already in place. There's clearly some type of psychological op going on with this treaty where they know that there's people who are going to be skeptical. They obviously get all the data from everything that we all put out onto the internet, and they study that, and they realize that the more that they seem forceful of pushing this, the more people will actually pull back and say, okay, well, I don't know if I trust this anymore. I don't know if I trust what's going on. So they pretend like some of the countries are opposed, as if they're actually negotiating this thing. And this is going to come to a head with Donald Trump. And of course, it is. And I wonder what they possibly have planned, because you can obviously guarantee that Donald Trump will not be out in the open this time around with any of the stuff going on in regards to disease X like he was last time. Conveniently, his entire audience dismisses the whole Operation Warp Speed, which obviously drives all of us insane. But they're talking about getting this done in May of 2025. And part of this article from Reuters says, well, there's going to be questions about whether the administration of Donald Trump will support it. So I'm sure Donald Trump administration will not support it. And this will be a way to lure conservatives in, obviously more than they already are, with Donald Trump. And there'll be some type of countermeasure. Now, obviously, you could also expect them to release lots of bioweapons on the American people and then say, well, that's because they didn't take the precautions to, get on board with this stuff. They could also use it for civil division. If Donald Trump doesn't get on board with a magic potion, the Democrats will go crazy because they'll want it. They'll be begging for it. Might have to go to liberal states. I mean, there's so many things that are going to come out of all of this circus that we've been experiencing since 2016 with Trump, now going into 2025, with them waiting to unleash this quote-unquote black swan-like event on the public. And, of course, Trump opposing it will also play very much into people giving more support to Trump. Now, he doesn't support those globalists, right? And he'll have some type of counter plan. But remember, at the end of the day, they've got to get nanotech inside of people's body. So maybe it'll be a Trump-created potion. Maybe they'll put more marketing behind Donald Trump and Elon Musk with theirs versus the World Health Organization and whatever they try to unleash. We'll see how it plays out. But it's going to play out. This is not going to be a quiet 2025. They've been waiting for Disease X, for Trump to be in power for it. It's going to cause more civil unrest because if Trump is opposed to things like the Paris Climate Change Initiative and he's opposed to actually joining up with the WHO, this will drive Democrats even more insane because they want to line up for poison, right? So will certain states offer it and certain states won't, and Trump won't be on board? Will Trump have his own that'll be just marketed towards conservatives? Think about that, right? Think about if they have this big thing, this big national one and, worldwide one that they're trying, okay, and so-and-so's behind it, whoever, right? And Trump doesn't support it. Well, the Dems will want that one. Conservatives say, there's no way I'm taking it, right? But Trump will be like, hey, I got my own. And we've worked with people, and Elon Musk has worked with people. Little do they know that Elon Musk has openly talked about, as I've covered on the website, another way to get that Neuralink inside of your body is to just shoot it right into you, right? So we'll see where it goes, but Disease X is apparently out there in the Congo, and there's probably a good chance that this video gets removed. But if it does, it does. Pay attention to these stories because the Black Swan event is very, very near, and these people are getting older, and they're ready to, exit their vessels probably into other bodies or other, other machines, whatever the plan is. But these people are getting older. The Bill Gates of the world, they're not waiting around for 30 years to unleash Disease X. And the fact that they're already calling this Disease X and they're teasing the fact that this could be airborne and they're teasing the fact that, well, we're going to need some type of biometrical data tracking system put in place. Oh, and Donald Trump, we're going to believe, is opposed to it. He probably will play that role and have his own personal one so that you could trust that it's safe to get his digital ID or his magic potion. It is going to be an absolute circus, so be ready for it. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you as always and your families.